I want to get into the contents of the book and what you all found and what Dom found. But before we do, he talked about and he writes about not only how to save the Amazon, but why to save the Amazon. What, in Dom's view, what in your views, would be the reasons to save the Amazon?
I think, first of all, we are facing a climate crisis. Boy, that's it. What's so nonsense? Just ignore what is this challenging time that we are living and destroy the remaining rainforest or the forests around the world. For me, it's absolutely crazy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And another point, I think that we are destroying one amazing and immense biodiversity before even get to know it. So now we are discovering the ecosystem service that, for example, Amazon produce as a climate regulation, something like producing rains, maintaining the humidity, absorbing carbon. So, and much more things that we have no idea until today. And I think that we don't know the technology of nature, because there is a lot of things, a lot of possibilities in the rainforest, biomedicine, new, how can I say this? New food that we can discover, because maybe we can face some problems with the production of food. Mm-hmm. So, for me, it's a kind of no sense. Don't know about it. Okay. You know.
Did you want to add?
I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but just go from the most basic, closest to you. It's completely egotistical. I mean, if the Amazon is at the very edge of a tipping point. This is a scientific consensus. We don't know exactly when it's going to be, what it will look like, but there's a point of no return where you've deforested enough of the Amazon so that it can't create the water cycle, so it can't replenish itself, and then suddenly it just goes into this tipping point where it transitions from this incredible, beautiful rainforest that's providing all of the water for South America to a savanna and maybe even to a desert. If that happens, São Paulo, the biggest city in South America, already has trouble with its own water supply. You can imagine what would happen if the source of that water disappears. Imagine what will happen to all of the crops that the reason that this is being chopped down for cattle and for crops. It's going to be very hard to plant them. That a lot of that goes to feed much of the world. But just think geopolitically, what would happen if the entire continent, its main source of water, disappears? How many, the immigration crisis that's happening in the US right now, or at least the political focus on it, how many hundreds of millions of people are going to be trying to flee South America? And when they do, we know that the Amazon is not isolated by itself. So there's many other global climate tipping points that are happening around the world right now. The Atlantic meridian overturning current, which could also be at a tipping point very close. If the Amazon tips, then those are all going to tip much faster and much harder. So I don't know if any of you have kids or plan to or grandkids, but that's not a very positive outcome. So, I mean, there's lots of reasons, you can go to the Amazon like Dom did and meet these incredible people, and you'll read about them in the book, and you'll want to do it for them. But you can just do it for yourself. I mean, for all of us, for humanity. It seems so basic and obvious and so important. And when you look at the profits that are being made for the destruction, 80 to 90% of the deforestation coming from cattle, the profits are so minuscule. They're so small, like per hectare, per acre, per year. They're making just these insignificant sums of money in the grand scheme of the global economy. And it's not like global oil, petroleum that we all rely on for so many things. That's a much stickier, trickier subject. I mean, we don't need to have so many heads of cattle here. You can do it there. You can do it more efficiently. You can have a little less cattle. It can be a little more expensive. That's not going to be a huge problem for the world. They just don't want to.
And I think that another thing, we are not talking because we don't know until today the impact in the oceans. For example, we have the big river in Amazon River is one of the biggest in the world. And this river carrying a lot of nutrients to the Atlantic Ocean. And if we don't have the rain season, what is happening with the oceans? And the oceans is interconnected. It's a system. We live in a life system. We are interlinked, we are interdependent. So we don't know what will happen, actually.
There's so much we don't know. Okay, let's stay for a moment then on profits and who's profiting, because among the people who are deriving benefit from the Amazon right now are the very poor people who live there and are farming perhaps on prescribed land, who may be fishing on indigenous territory. People who are there have also been there for generations, and their livelihoods are based on doing some of these economic activities that we see as harmful to the ecosystem. And I know that this is something that Dom thought a great deal about, and you spoke about just now when you said that he would talk to everyone. What can be done for people whose livelihoods have come to depend on activities that are problematic for the environment?
I think, the answer is not easy, because I think many people think about Amazon as a block of forest with huge rivers. It's not. It's a home to 29 million people. It's a lot of people. And they are facing social issues. They are facing a few job opportunities, So if we don't have one good development, economic development, because now we have an aggressive economic development in Amazon. So we have farmers or big companies exploring. So don't say I think to you, and he also said to me, who am I to judge these fathers of families that work in gold mining while I'm living in my home, I have my job, I have my salary, you know what I mean? So I think that don't talk about the international support, but I think that we have to know more about the supply chain. The supply chain have to be very transparent to citizens choose what we can consume, but actually it's not just individual choice. We have to join together really in a collective way to make pressure in the politicians, in big companies, you know what I mean? Because more and more we know we have access to good information, more I think that we can take good decisions. And you can explain this better because my English not enough to say this.
Your English is fantastic. Don't.
But actually, we have these companies, many big transnational companies, just having profits, and we as consumers, we don't know. We have the right to know this and choice if we will consume or not.
Right. Let's stay on that for a moment longer, Andrew. So we know that large multinational companies are reaping profits from this, but the actual people in the forest, the people who are doing the farming, the people, even the illegal gold miners you mentioned, they aren't getting rich. They are living close to a subsistence life. How much are they a part of the solution for wherever the Amazon needs to go?
Oh, they're a huge part. And the cruelest irony of all this is that the people who murdered Dom and Bruno were very much in this vision that he's talking about, of these people that, in a lot of these communities, there's not a lot of options, and maybe there is investors or a criminal gang that's coming in and they're offering, fancy powerboat and the best opportunity for you to take care of your kids, and you haven't had, the state hasn't reached your community very well. You don't have a lot of options, and so what needs to change is that they need to have alternatives. And these are all political choices. I mean, the amount of subsidies that goes to big agro and to cattle in Brazil, we don't know the full number because the government doesn't do that research because they don't really want to do that research. They get tens of billions of dollars a year. We know that. Between tax breaks and incentives and all the different services they provide, globally for big agro, we're talking about trillions of dollars with oil and gas as well. All this money is going to subsidize these industries that are killing us. And one of the people that I speak to in my chapter about international finance and financing is a woman who's an activist for the Landless Peasants Movement, MST. It's the biggest peasant movement in the world. It's an incredible organization. And there's law in Brazil that if you have unproductive land, then the government has to give that land over to peasants so that they can use this and have a sustainable lifestyle. So she and her community came in, they settled this farm, and they were using it for cattle. And so because it's not their land and they're not sure if they're going to get title and how long this is going to take, it's going to take 9 years for them to get title. They just kept doing the cheapest thing possible, which is raising more cattle. This is the big leftist organization that's a communist organization. And they're doing it because it makes complete economic sense. They don't have the resources to do it. Why are they going to invest the money they don't have to buy the equipment that they don't have to retool the land to become an agroforest, which is a more sustainable model that as everything's in balance and use multiple different crops overlay. It's not monocropping. And so she was saying that they were all doing this because this is a thing that was provided. The government's not really coming to help them. The NGOs aren't coming to reach them. And then now they're seeing that the cattle is becoming unsustainable for them. Like even if they wanted to, which they never wanted to, which is the thing that was made the most economic sense, with the new heat waves and the dry seasons that are becoming longer and longer, it's actually not profitable for them in a way that it never really was, massively profitable. But they want to have agroforestry, which is one of the best ways to have sustainable economic systems for local people that also regenerates the Amazon and prevents this massive collapse that we just talked about. And they're desperate to get this money, to get a little bit of help, which is it's so little money. There's a study that I cite in my chapter that said that over 20 years to have the transition to a sustainable Amazon economy, it's $500 billion, which sounds like a lot of money, but you know how many trillions of dollars there are in the economy? Do you know, this is like 0.5% or 0.2%, I don't remember, of the GDP of Brazil per year. It's so much less than is going to the subsidies for mining and oil and for big agro and for these major landholders that are not paying any of their fines. So it's really it's not, in some ways it's not hard at all what the answer is, and in other ways it's incredibly complex and impossible because it's politics. So it really depends on the lens that you're using to look at the situation. But there are millions of people in the Amazon that are ready to participate in the solution if you can work with them to help.